The NFL offseason is in full swing, and in June and July you see all kinds of takes like people's quarterback rankings that somehow don't have Josh Allen in the top 5, or whatever ludicrous take they want to get off their chest. Hello, Colin Cowherd saying the Vikings are going to double their wins, which would mean they would go 16-1 this year, and yes, he actually said that. But in today's video, we're going to be discussing a couple of bold takes heading into the 2022 NFL season, and a few will be player-centric and a few will be team-centric, and without further ado, let's begin. And we're going to start today's video with the Chicago Bears and their upcoming season. They are in a division with the Packers, who have the 2-time defending and 4-time overall MVP Aaron Rodgers, the Minnesota Vikings, who swept them last year, and the much improved Detroit Lions, who, despite having just 3 wins in all of 2021, improved a lot this offseason. The bold prediction isn't that Chicago is going to be bad in 2022, or they may surprise some teams and be in the hunt due to Justin Fields' progression, but it is that they're going to finish with a bottom 2 or 3 record in the entire NFL and not draft a quarterback in 2023. I realize how that initially sounds, as the Bears' new regime, with Matt Eberflus as head coach and Ryan Poles as general manager, have no ties to Justin Fields, but to me the reality is if they draft a quarterback next year with one of those picks, how is it going to be any different than what Justin Fields has now, or how he will perform in 2023, which would be his 3rd year, himself? Sure, they may have a receiver from free agency, or even Cole Kmet may progress, but this is a team that's probably not going to be in the playoffs this year, and a team that most definitely struggled more than the average NFL team did in 2021. Justin Fields' first start was against the Browns, and how did he do? He had 1 net passing yard, not even yards, 1 net passing yard, because he was sacked 9 times and lost 67 yards and threw for just 68. So what I would like the Bears to do to really help out this rebuild is to trade back, because unlike 2022 where no teams wanted to trade up for a quarterback, that will not be a problem next year, as there could be as many as 7 or even 8 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, highlighted by CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. There will be a team, potentially someone like the Seattle Seahawks or hell even the Washington Commanders, that would trade some serious draft capital to go up and get one of these guys and would only help Chicago's rebuild out. And the Bears could stay put at their new draft spot and draft Ohio State's Jackson Smith-Njigba and, actually try and help out Justin Fields. And if you're thinking, wait a minute, why would Chicago, of all teams, trade out of drafting a quarterback, and a good one at that, in Stroud or Young, and gamble on Fields? My answer to that is, look at what Trevor Lawrence did in his rookie season, despite being the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. How far off is Chicago's offense from what Trevor had in his rookie season down in Jacksonville from a player personnel standpoint? And I like Darnell Mooney, but whenever a player has promise, there's always this group of fans that like to project to the max and think he's this Justin Jefferson caliber player, when in fact he's not, as not a lot of people are. The start to rebuilding the Bears would be acquiring multiple first-round picks, which next year should not be a problem because of how deep the quarterback class is, and actually try to help Justin Fields. And from one 2021 draftee to another, we go to Pittsburgh to discuss running back Naji Harris, and the bold prediction is he leads the league in rushing yards in 2022. The first thing with this statistic is there has to be volume, as predicting someone like a Javonte Williams to do this in 2022 would not make a lot of sense, and that's not disrespect to Javonte as much as it is to acknowledge Melvin Gordon is in the same backfield. But with Naji, this is a player who finished second in the NFL in carries as a rookie with 307, behind only Jonathan Taylor, who, all things considered, is one of the best running backs in the NFL, and you can certainly make an argument that he is the best back in the NFL. He had over 1,800 rushing yards last year and was an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. And when you have that good of a season, you're more than likely going to take a step back because it is nearly impossible to duplicate that kind of success. And with Naji, what will benefit him for this is he will either have a rookie quarterback in front of him in Kenny Pickett or a bit of a journeyman in Mitch Trubisky. Translation, Naji should receive a shit ton of carries, and it's not crazy to think he will eclipse the 300 mark in each of his first 2 seasons. And with Naji, there should also be some improvement from himself, as he averaged just 3.9 yards per carry last year, and we saw the giant leap Jonathan Taylor took from year 1 to year 2, and it's not crazy to think that Naji can do the same. And on top of it, the Steelers improved at guard this offseason by adding former Chicago Bear James Daniels. Now, for clarity, this is a bold take, and especially when you look at the 2020 rushing champion and Derrick Henry season and Jonathan Taylor last year, as Henry had over 2,000 and Taylor, as we said, had over 1,800. But the prior years, 2017 through 2019, the winners were in the 1,300 to 1,500 area, and that is more than reasonable for Naji to have. And factoring in JT or King Henry not having an insane 1,800 yard plus year with Naji's natural improvement plus an improved offensive line makes me think he can lead the league in rushing yards in 2022. And this next one will definitely surprise some people, but it is that Marquise Brown finishes the year top 5 in receiving yards. Now, the explanation will make this make a lot more sense, but Marquise will be, for the first time in his NFL career, in a passing offense and be without a doubt the number 1 guy the quarterback wants to throw to. He doesn't have a Mark Andrews who broke the tight end receiving record in a single season to deal with for the first half of the season, as eventually DeAndre will come back. But in the first 8 games of the 2021 season, again in an offense that does not emphasize the passing game anywhere close to as much as the Cardinals do and as much as Cliff Kingsbury does, Marquise was on pace for 1,449 yards, which would have been 6 less than Jamar Chase finished with and placed him number 5 in the entire NFL. There is a little bit of projection there, but Marquise had 3 100-yard games in the first 8 last year and still had 2 games within those first 8 games with less than 55. It's not unreasonable to think one game Marquise has 7, 8, 9 catches for $150 or $160 and do it again the following week. Marquise has always been a tad underrated, and the back half of 2021 certainly does not do him any favors on the stat sheet, but when things worked out for him and he had good quarterback play, we saw a glimpse of what he can be, and consistently. It will be interesting to see how the Cardinals offense will be when DeAndre comes back, especially after Marquise is balling, but I don't think it's unreasonable for him and Cliff Kingsbury's offense to finish with 1,300 or more receiving yards. And before you write that off and say Marquise isn't that type of player in terms of production, he had 1,000 last year with Tyler Huntley throwing to him for half of the season. And next is perhaps the boldest take of all, but it is the Bill Belichick coached New England Patriots will not make the playoffs in 2022. Out of any of the 8 divisions in football entering the year, I think the AFC East is the most cut and dry in terms of who is going to win the division, and the preseason favorite makes sense in the Buffalo Bills. They are a Super Bowl contender for a reason, and a lot of people's picks, and understandably so. They smoked the Patriots in the 2021 playoffs by 30 points, and the Patriots lost corner J.C. Jackson to another team in the AFC in the Los Angeles Chargers, and a team that missed the playoffs last year that could and probably will replace them this year. The entire AFC West will be in contention for the playoffs, as will a fellow AFC East divisional member in the Miami Dolphins. And from the North, the Ravens and Bengals will be in contention, and very easily the team coached by the GOAT and a head coach that has 6 rings is on the outside looking in. We're in June as I record this, and at the moment I don't see any way the Patriots even sneak in as the 7th seed. Their offense is not on par with the rest of the AFC, as if you go by position, Mac is at minimum probably the 8th best quarterback in the conference, again at minimum, and their wide receiver room cannot sniff what a team like the Cincinnati Bengals have going on in southwestern Ohio. And when Tom Brady left in free agency in March of 2020, I'm sure Patriots fans thought there would be some drop-off, but this average or slightly above average is taking a turn for the worse. And the rest of the AFC is not going around saying, "Here, Bill, we'll give you a win against us because of how you've impacted the game," or any of that nonsense. They're saying we're better than the Patriots, and this team is a shell of what they used to be. And honestly, they're not far off when they think that, and the New England Patriots will miss the playoffs in 2022. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because it would truly mean the world. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.